But my guest relating to transportation and getting places is the administrator of the Worcester Regional Transit Authority, Jon Church. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Tim.
Jonathan, before we kind of get into some of the challenges that you and the RTA board are kind of facing and your fellow regional transit authorities across the state, maybe for our viewers, you could just talk about what the Worcester Regional Transit Authority is and kind of the towns and regions that it serves.
Sure. We are the public transit option for the Worcester and the 36 communities within our town. We cover a 966 square mile area. We have been in operation since 1974, and we provide fixed route and paratransit service for those with disabilities and elders within the region. So
buses, vans, cars,
yep.
That type of thing. And funded a few different ways, assessments on cities and towns, some federal money that comes in for capital.
Right, mostly for capital is the federal money, and then the majority of our funding comes from the state in terms of operating for our buses and vans.
There are how many transit authorities across the state?
We're one of 15.
One of 15, and then fares that you collect.
Right, fares collected, advertising revenue, and other revenue that we can get.
And so, you're 2 years on the job now?
Just about 2 years. Just about 2 years.
And every day's been a challenge because there's been kind of level funding at the state level for 4 years now.
Right. And so we've been advocating to try to get more. We were hoping for more last year. We did a number of service cuts last year to be within the budget, as well as a fare increase. We're now looking at potential service cuts based if the budget does not go up, but we've certainly been advocating to try to get that word out that these are going to be detrimental cuts to service as well as people's lives for work and even the economic of the region.
Right, and I want to come back to that, so to give a little time on that. But as it relates to kind of your fixed bus service, and how is it that you go about determining what routes, ridership, meeting employer needs, times, what goes into that kind of thinking or strategy?
We try to look at a number of things like route directness, where the employers are located, where trip generators could be, which could be anything from hospitals, schools, workplaces, and really try to concentrate routes that have been located along those lines. We have a very historical system, and we know that some of that needs to change with employers that have moved around, but a lot of our major employers, except those have come in really into the downtown area in the last few years, have really more or less stayed where they are, and the colleges have been a big piece of it as well in terms of ridership for us. So we've been able to continue to serve those, and those routes tend to get heaviest ridership of all of them. Yeah,
and you're seeing kind of a broader conversation nationally about public transportation.
We are.
Dedicated bus lanes and things like that. I mean, I assume that's a good trend generally for people.
It is, and certainly, when the successes that we've built in the last few years with the forward funding and certainly how we've improved service, but other than the last year where we've had to improve technology and had more bus tracking ability where people can look at their bus on the phone and find out where it is and know where it's coming, we've certainly tried to keep up with those trends in technology.
And get back, to the funding piece. I mean, I picked up the paper the other day, the Globe, or read online, that, the MBTA, the Mass Bay Transit Authority, is not just commuter rail, but they also provide the bus service, the fixed route bus service in the Greater Boston. And so, I saw that there are two expansions. One of them being the Silver Line now will go into Chelsea.
Yes.
And that's a very different. They're talking about expansion and night owl service.
Right.
After 11 and midnight. They're talking about strategic expansion where the regional transit authorities like Worcester, you're just trying to hold on to what you got.
Exactly, and that comes back. A lot of that comes down to the funding that we were hoping to get over the years. Where when we were forward funded in FY14, there was a 5-year plan outlined with a 2.5% progression that we were hoping to get for all the RTAs, so that we could keep up with service. And we added service on the road. We balanced our budgets. We were able to become more fiscally constrained and really help the economics of the area. But unfortunately, what's happened is that 5-year plan was kind of put at a hold. We were hoping to get up to, but this year we should have been at 86.2 million for all RTAs. We never got above 82 in FY17. In fact, we went backwards this year to 80.4.
And so, I guess if there's any light at the end of the road, and instead of the tunnel,
right.
Just recently we hosted Senator Chandler, Senate President
Yes.
Chandler, at the Worcester Chamber of Commerce's Breakfast Club event up at
Yep.
Holy Cross. she indicated that it was going to be a priority in her role as Senate President to kind of help see if we could get you guys back to a level, not just that benefits Worcester, but all the regional transit authorities, which are kind of important to the regional economies across the state.
Absolutely, and I can't thank Senator Chandler enough for all of her advocacy over the years. She was very helpful in the years with getting us to be forward funded and has always been an advocate for the RTAs, and we can't thank her enough for that. We certainly have had conversations with her to let her know that you know, where things stand in the other RTAs, and we've been trying to work with the delegation, not only in Central Mass but throughout the state, to let all of our elected officials know that this is where it is and we're affected by it. There seems to be some thought that, you know, we're competing against schools and other things in the budget. We actually are funded through the Commonwealth's Transportation Fund, so any of the funding that comes from that is directed to the RTAs and the MBTA and the roads.
And that Commonwealth Transportation Fund, that revenue comes from where?
Primarily from gas taxes
Right.
and fares and other parts of this.
Right.
state, yeah.
And you know, there's been a lot of data, you know, that we see out there about cities and communities or regions that are growing.
Yep.
A major aspect of that is the transportation and connectivity.
Correct, and you know, certainly we're seeing changes in downtown Worcester where City Square has come to be, and we're seeing those apartments come online. We're seeing the hotel being built. A lot of changes in the downtown from even 5 years ago. And we know that Worcester is a growing place. In fact, I've seen reports that we probably may even hit 200,000 in population. I think that would be fantastic. But we certainly want to be a part of that growth, and we want to continue to be part of the momentum in the build of Worcester and in the area.
And logically, as we build density, I mean, we can't, you know, build an infinite number of parking garages.
Correct.
It's going to, you know, everyone driving a car is not the way in direction we want to go. So public transit is a big piece of that.
Right, and we certainly want to expand our fixed route. I mean, when I came on board 2 years ago, my plan was to really increase the frequencies that we have. We have some routes that are in an hour, some that are a half hour. I really wanted to make those more frequent, similar to what the MBTA has. Some bus routes in the morning and the afternoon peaks at the MBTA are every 6 minutes. I don't think we're at that point, but I think we could probably be in the 15, 20-minute range. You know, there's only so much street space that one can provide. We can't expand streets like in some other nations, other communities out west, but certainly the more cars and congestion you have on the street, the more things slow down. We see that in the afternoons
Right.
with the school buses and school traffic. But we know that there's only so much space in an urban area, and you need to try to maximize it as much as possible.
And you know, again, it's a regional transit authority, so you run daily routes. You know, just some of the communities that
We do.
You maybe would share. You go as far.
Sure, we go as far south as Webster, Southbridge, and we go as far west as Brookfield for part of the day in the mornings and the afternoons, but most of the day to the East Brookfield Spencer line
Right.
to the courthouse.
So trying to serve the
Yep.
county.
We
along
also serve into West Boylston and Shrewsbury as well.
Shrewsbury. Okay, and as you kind of you know, clearly there's an advocacy piece right now, but
Sure.
you're also trying to manage employees and a budget. You know, this whole new thing of technology and impacting, you know, liveries and cabs and that whole thing.
Right.
I mean, every day you're constantly kind of evaluating.
We are. You know, we certainly know that ride sharing, things like Uber, Lyft, Via are out there, and we know that those are you know, options for people to take, and we certainly understand why. But we know that they contribute to congestion, and they're usually typically taking 1-2 passengers at a time. So there's really not an efficiency of maximizing in scale, and we're trying to see what we can do to adjust in some ways, but also provide within our budget as much as possible.
And make the case and educate people about,
Exactly.
you know, the route and the affordability piece
Right.
is a factor for many people as well.
Exactly.
Good. Well, Jonathan, it's good to have you on the show. I'm sure we'll be having you back, and you know, as a chamber, we're going to, you know, join with you in the advocacy on the budget, because
Thank you very much.
again, you know, everything that we know that regions and cities that are growing and thriving, public transportation is a big piece of that, and you are a big part of that intermodal transportation hub at Union Station that services the region. So keep up the good work, and
Thank you.
we'll be with you.
All right.